Peace everyone, Unmask here, and welcome back to the Pastel tutorial. Today we are, of course, continuing on our pastel portrait here. Last week we filled in a lot of the base layers for the face and the neck and the chest area, and before that we did the arms. So the plan for this week is hopefully finishing up the skin. Might take some time, but I'm willing to spend it. I have a number of selected colors set off to the side here for the toning portion of the skin. So I'm going to run through those colors really quick so that if you're following along on this project, then you will have an idea of what colors I might be reaching for later on today. So there's 6 of them, so have your pencil paper ready to write them down. 675, 645, 105, 620, 681, and last but not least 330. So those 6 colors there, I don't know if I'm going to use all of them or if I'm going to use only a couple of them, but those are the colors that I tested out on a scrap piece of pastel mat for the potential toning stage of this project. So anyways, those extra colors will sit there. I am going to be working with the same colors that I've been working with so far to continue layering on the skin. In particular the 642 color here. Real quick, I want to say hello to Catrice, and Danish, Carrie, and IOP. I'm not sure exactly. And IOP. I guess that's how I would pronounce your screen name. Shiny Arnie, Gila, not GFX. Thank you guys so much for coming by. And of course, if you guys have any questions throughout today's live stream, don't hesitate to ask. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get started on adding a few more layers of the 642 color on the skin here. I want to cover up any of the texture that still remains on the skin. So that's the plan before moving on. There's not a whole lot of the texture left, but I do want to make sure that I cover it up before I move on to adding any additional colors to the skin. Hope everyone is having a fantastic day so far. Seems like the weather here in Poland is going to be kind of nice today. So we've finally started to have some pretty decent and warm weather. It's about time. It's already going to be July before I know it, before we all know it. Do I spray the pastel mat? No, I do not. I do not use any fixative with any of my pastel work. I rely simply on the nature of the pastel mat itself to preserve the pastels. It is not a necessary part of pastels to use fixative. Some people use fixative, and that is totally up to them, but for me, I like the soft velvety look of pastels, and when you use fixative, you lose that soft velvety texture, so I do not use them. I have many old pastel paintings that I've done over the years that I have stored away with glassine paper and foam board, and I just only about a month ago went through all of that pastel work, and all of it still looks as good as the day I made it. in spite of the fact that it is sandwiched between glassine paper. So fixative is definitely not mandatory. Oh, good morning, Barbara. And Marcy and Andrea. I see you guys in the chat as well. So I'm just finishing up a quick brief layer with this color because where I left the skin last week, I didn't quite have it covered as much as I wanted it. There's still a little bit of the paper showing through, and I just want to try to cover that up before I move on. There we go. That's pretty close. I'd say, yeah, I'd say the skin looks a lot better just with that extra quick layer of this color applied. Alrighty. So now what I want to do is I want to start bringing in a little bit of the shadows. And what I'm going to do, I am going to use my 770 color. This is a color that we've been using throughout the skin already. And essentially I'm just going to start building up a bit of the shadows very, very lightly using this color. So I'm slowly just going to increase the contrast using this purple color here. How do you frame a pastel painting? That's an excellent question. So there are a couple ways to do it. The first way, and I think probably the best way to do it, is using what's called matte board. And you can buy matte board pretty much from any art store or framing store or anything like that. And essentially it's just like it'll be like a colored cardboard with varying degrees of thickness. And I recommend getting like 3 to 4 millimeter thickness of the matte board. And you simply cut out the framing of that for the pastel painting to be attached from the back. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you that 3 to 4 millimeter gap between the glass that you have to frame pastel paintings behind. Pastel paintings have to be behind glass if you're going to frame them. And it has to be glass. It cannot be plexiglass. It has to be real glass. The reason it can't be plexiglass is because of static electricity. The static electricity from plexiglass will pull the pastel off of the paper. So just keep that in mind if you do intend on framing your pastel work. The matte board is going to give you the option to frame in a majority of frames where the glass would otherwise be touching the artwork, because you also need to make sure when you frame it that the artwork is not being touched by the glass. So that's what you use the matte board for. The other option is to have a frame where the glass does not lay against the artwork. And in that case, you would not need to use a matte board to create that separation. So those are the two ways that you can frame pastel work. Oh, hey there, Chrissy. Good to see you. Yes, everything indeed is okay. Very, very okay indeed. So yeah, things are good. The weather's nice, which is a good change. Yesterday it did rain, but today the weather's nice, which is always a good thing. And it's been a nice relaxing day so far. I hope all of you that were able to attend yesterday's uh, celebratory live stream enjoyed that live stream. It was a lot of fun chatting with everyone and just kind of going through the story and remembering the history of my channel and all of that stuff. It was really great. Oh, hey there, Lisa. Good to see you. Do I transfer line art to pastel matte as usual? Yes. Yes, I use the same transfer method that I've shown before in the past using the back tracing method with rubbing graphite onto the back of your sketching paper and then simply transferring it over. I do that same exact method to transfer line art onto my pastel mat. It works just as well. I would say it's probably a little bit more difficult if you're going to use like a dark color of pastel mat, but what you could do instead is use white pastel on the back of your sketch paper. You could probably do something like that. No, the graphite, I do not have an issue erasing the graphite when I transfer it. I find that it erases quite easily. Just, you don't have to press real hard. So that's one thing that you want to be cautious of. You don't want to press really hard when you're making the transfer because what you'll do is you'll actually indent the pastel mat, and you don't want to do that. So if you can stop from indenting the pastel mat, you should have no problem whatsoever erasing the graphite from the paper. Oh, it's cold down there in Australia, is it, Chrissy? Yeah, what is it, like 17, 18 degrees? Probably not even that cold. I'd love to have just the cold weather of Australia. That would be nice and comfortable for me, and probably most of anybody that lives in Europe. So I'm still using the 770 color right now, and I'm just putting in shadows everywhere that they kind of show up. So I also have my trusty little blending tool here to soften any lines that I might create and to mix the colors. Now when you apply the shadows, things will still look a little off because you don't have any highlights. Try not to get too hung up on that. So just apply a little bit of the shadows. You don't have to go too dark. You don't have to do anything too crazy with it. Just you see where you see the skin being a little bit darker. Just apply a bit of the shadow there, and don't worry about the highlights just yet. We'll get to the highlights soon enough. For now, we just want to work real slowly and get some of the shadows put in. And I haven't used any of the new colors that I listed off there at the beginning. We haven't gotten to any of the toning stage, so. Right now the skin has a bit too much red in it, so I'll most likely be leaning towards like the orange or yellow colors that I picked out for the toning colors to kind of bring back a little bit of the yellow that's in the skin, and that will just help the skin look more natural, because right now it looks a little purple. A little too purple. Alright, now I'm going to work down into the neck and underneath the chin a little bit. Remember to keep your pencil pressure really, really light and just let that color build up very slowly over several pencil strokes. You don't want to try to fill it all in right away. There's no need to rush that part of the coloring process. Just let it come in nice and slowly. That'll give you the most control and the best results. So oh, you like my pencil holder? Yeah, this pencil holder is just real cheap. This is the really cheap wooden ones that I got years ago off of Amazon, and I think I got a pack of 10 or 12 of them for like $3 or something. They're not the sturdiest of pencil holders, but they work well enough. They get the job done. But most likely you wouldn't be able to have your pencil in this and then sharpen it because it would just sit here and spin. But they do the job for what I need them to do. Alright, I'm going to jump back up to the face. Got to put the shadow underneath the lips here. You know, I don't think that I grabbed a color for the lips, but I might actually have a color. That, what is it, the 330 color? Yeah, that 330 color that I listed off at the beginning. I think I might just use that to do a base layer on the lips. Oh, thank you, A-Line. Do I have a favorite shade of pastel matte? Um, I think there was like this. It's not black. It's kind of like a slate color. I think the name of it might be slate. But I really liked working on that. But there's also this like brownish, like this light brown yellow one that I worked on in the past that I really kind of liked that one also. I would probably work on different shades of pastel matte if I could buy the pads of it where it's just one single color. But the place I get my pastel matte, they the pads that they sell just white ones, and then they sell the mixed ones that have like several colors in it and only has like two sheets of each color. And some of the colors I don't have really a desire to work on, and so I just tend not to buy those. I wish they had sold them in just, if you want the slate color, that you can buy a gummed pad of just a slate color, but they don't offer it, so I just stick to the white because I end up covering it anyway. And the colored pastel matte, I think I'd only really want to use in projects where I know that I'm not going to be adding any background, particularly like portrait projects. In the case of this portrait project, this is the first pastel portrait that I included a background. So the fact that I'm working on white paper doesn't really bother me at all because it's already covered anyway. All right, let's smooth that out so she looks a little bit normal. Get rid of some of the lines that I created with the application of this color. Yeah, I like working on the dark shades also. It's really nice to have the light colors show up so vibrantly when you work on the dark stuff, and you kind of have that middle value already, kind of already in the project. And I like to work both towards the light and towards the dark. So the colored pastel matte is really nice to work on. I think I actually might have a couple pieces of just random colors of pastel matte. I'd have to check, but I think I have one or two sheets of non-white pieces left from one of those mixed gum pads that I was mentioning a moment ago. A gummed pad of anthracite? Yeah, I'll have to check. I'll have to check to see if the store that I get my pastel matte offers that. Because the last time I looked, they didn't have any pads that just had a single color. They only had the mixed ones. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to get a gummed pad of all the colors that they offer. It doesn't really make sense to me, but I can only get what the place offers, so. All right, so now we have the form of the face a little bit better, right? So we have a bit of the shadows placed in, and now all we really need to work on is kind of fine tuning the color. And I'm gonna focus on the face first, because one, it's going to be the hardest part for a lot of people, and it's going to be the focal point. So even if you don't get the arms as perfect as you get the face, probably still be better off. So let's see. I'm gonna start with this color here. Let me get a pencil extender for it. This is going to be the 681. So that's the color I will be starting with. That pencil extender is a little bit loose. Let me see if I can get a tighter one. Yeah, there we go. That one's a little bit better. I want to try to get it without having to wrap tape around it, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So I'm just going to take a piece of tape and wrap it around the end of my pencil here. Hopefully that'll be tight enough for this pencil extender. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right, now I can still see the number as well. So this is the 681, and a lot of this color is actually going to go in the highlights, and this is going to be like a transition color from the highlight into the darker parts of the skin. So I'm going to use it kind of around the edges a little bit of the highlights, and just go from there. You shouldn't see a huge change with this color, since it is relatively light. What is the difference between value, saturation, and contrast? That is a really, really good question, which is why about a year ago, I made a video titled I can't remember the number. I think it's 5 words that every artist should know and understand. And I can describe the difference between those terms there, but I think you're going to get a better understanding if you watch that video. So I'll go ahead and answer the question, but I highly recommend checking out that video that I made like a year or 2 ago, describing contrast, value, saturation, and maybe a couple other terms. But let's talk about contrast first. So contrast refers to the entirety of the image. So contrast refers to the entire collection of values that occur throughout a particular image. And when you have a lot of contrast, what that means is that you have parts of the image that get really, really close or all the way to perfect black. And on the other side, you have parts of the image that get really, really close or all the way to white. And you have a range between those two values, those two extremes. And so a high contrasted image has the very, very dark blacks and the very, very bright whites. And if you have a very low contrasted image, essentially what you're left with is just a small variance within the gray the gray level of value. So you don't get really dark and you don't get really bright. That would be a low contrasted image. Now, when it comes to value, value refers to one specific part of any section that you look at on an image. So that's the difference between contrast and value, is that contrast is a measurement of the entire image, whereas value is the measurement of one particular color or shade. So something that has a lot of value to it goes closer towards black. Something that has a really light value to it goes closer to white. Both white and black have zero value. They are zeroed out. They're as valued as you can get in one direction or the other. Now, saturation is a little bit different. Saturation is the measurement of color intensity in a particular color. So if you look at something that has a maximum saturation, what you're going to be looking at is essentially neon type colors. So colors that are extremely bright in their color. So like a neon orange or a neon green, something along those lines. Those colors are the most extreme in their saturation. And then you have colors that are low saturation. And what you would associate with the low saturation colors is generally what you would refer to as like neutrals, where the color looks like it's gray, but has like a hint of blue or a hint of green or a hint of red or something along those lines. You can kind of think of the lowest saturation is literally just the family of gray. And in terms of white and black, both white and black have absolutely zero saturation because they are purely without color. Same thing with neutral gray. Any neutral gray, regardless of the value, is also a zero saturation color. If you start to add saturation into gray, what you're going to get is different families of gray. So you have, when you add tan into gray is when you get French grays. When you add blue into gray, you get cool grays. When you add yellow into grays, you get the warm grays. So hopefully I've been able to describe that reasonably well for you to understand. But like I said, the video that I made like a year or two ago describing those exact terms, I use, picture examples to help clarify exactly what it is that I'm referring to. Because I actually made that video a long time ago because I was getting those questions. I was getting questions from people asking about what saturation is and what value and contrast and what those terms actually mean. So that's why I made that particular video. And here you are asking those same questions. So that video, fortunately, already exists for you. Oh, thank you, Mandarin. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm very pleased with how friendly the community around my channel is as well. I'm glad that you also find it very friendly. Still using that 681 color, and I'm just starting to bring in a little bit of the value changes in the skin. Very, very lightly building up the color, and this is going to mix really good with the 642 color that we used as the base. Just give us some nice, really subtle value changes in the form of the face and the anatomy in general. Aside from the lips missing, I think the face is starting to look really great. Maybe I should just take a moment to add some lip color so it doesn't look like a void. Help you get also get a better just kind of overview of the face. So let me just pause with that color really quick. This color is probably pretty close. This is 333, and I'm literally just going to fill in the lips with this color, just so we have something, and we have the paper covered. There will still be a little bit of shading and whatnot that we'll have to do on the lips, but applying this color as a base color, I think is going to be safe. Somehow I completely forgot about the lips when I was getting ready to stream, and I was picking out my extra colors that I wanted to use in the skin to get the skin looking more realistic. Yeah, that's almost the right color. It's maybe a little bit too maroon. Our lips have a little bit more pink in them, but we can adjust that later on. Oh, hey there, Sneaks. Alright, I'm going to use black really quick to keep her lips separated. We colored that a little bit last week, but I just want to reinforce it. And I'm going to use some of the 770 color on her upper lip where it's darker. So just shading her upper lip with the 770 color. And that should give us a really, really good foundation for when we work on the lips later on. So that already looks significantly better. She just doesn't have her the right color on the bottom. The bottom lip is a little dark. But what was the color we were using? Oh, that's right. We were using the 681. So I'm going to switch back to the 681 color and continue on adding the highlights to the face. Yes, yes. The lips do make a big difference. I agree. I should have put the lips on much sooner. A face without lips does look rather odd. So yeah, I definitely should have done that sooner. But it looks good now, so all is good. This process will take a really, really long time, and it is important, it is paramount to your success to go very slow and remain patient. You don't have to make big extreme changes. It's all about just making small minor adjustments, finding where the skin is a little bit brighter, a little bit darker, and just going back and forth with just a few colors at first. And then gradually, as you get closer and closer to the results that you're looking for, that's where you start to bring in your other colors to really get the skin exactly the way you want it to look. Like I said, when I mentioned the colors in the beginning, and I told you which colors I was bringing in, there is a high chance that I won't use all of them. I just picked what I thought I'd probably need, but sometimes I pick more than what I need. So this uh, I'm working on pastel matte. I have tried Pastel on the Lux archival paper. I did a review of it, I think back in January of this year. I think it was January. But it works really well with soft pastels, but when it comes to pastel pencils, it does not work as well as pastel matte. Nothing works as well as pastel matte. And I'm quite familiar with Aliona. I would consider her a friend even, and I wish that the Lux archival paper worked just as well or better than pastel matte, because I would much prefer to use her paper. But as it is, it's just not quite, when it comes to the pencils, just a little bit better on pastel matte. Alright, let's grab the blender really quick, kind of smooth out the area of the chest and neck that I worked on. Even with the blender here, I am using as little pressure as possible. Add a little bit of a highlight right underneath her chin. Right there. There we go. Starting to look pretty good. All right, now let's go over some of the highlights on the arms really quick with this color before we move on to any other additional colors. Just going to kind of boost a little bit of the highlights that I see. There's not a whole bunch of them. How long do I take for one artwork? Oh, it totally depends. Yeah, it totally depends on how big it is, what the subject matter is, what the medium is that I'm working in, and also the style that I'm going for. If I'm going for like really close to realism, or if I'm going for a little bit looser style. So there's so many variables to just give you a single answer. It also depends on, am I doing it for a tutorial? Am I just doing it for myself? so many different variables that I have a hard time just giving you one flat answer for it. What brand of pastel pencils am I using? So I'm using Carbothello pastel pencils. And anytime that I recommend pastel pencils to somebody, I always recommend getting the Carbothellos. They are very, very good pencils and they are very inexpensive. They have an excellent color selection. I've had no issues whatsoever matching colors with the colors available in the set. They come in a nice tin set case that is quite good. Um, and yeah, they're just really great pastel pencils and perfect for anybody that wants to get into the medium. I do have I do have several other sets of pastel pencils, but because I always recommend these ones when I do my tutorials and stuff, I exclusively stick to the Carbothellos just so it's easier for people to follow along. They don't have to go out and buy every set of pastel pencils to follow the tutorials. So I just stick with these ones and I don't regret it in any way because they work really, really just fantastically. And if I were to recommend a secondary set, so if you have the Carbothellos and you really like to collect art supplies, then I'd recommend getting the Faber-Castell Pitt pencils in addition to the Carbothellos because they make a really great secondary set. They are a little bit more dense than the Carbothellos, so as far as colors go, they lack a little bit in their vibrancy. But if you get the vibrancy from the Carbothellos, you can mix the two brands really well. By the way, they just complement each other really nicely because the Pitt pencils, if I'm not mistaken, there's a little bit more color variation, but all of the colors that the Pitt pencils have are like all of the in-between colors that are missing from the Carbothellos. So just overall a really great complementary set between those two sets of pencils there. Does the price of a medium define how well it performs? No, it does not. It it can have some influencing factors, but I would say in general, you do not have to buy the most expensive art supplies to get quality products. As a primarily I'm a colored pencil artist. I've been doing colored pencils for a really long time, and that's essentially what my channel has been most about before I got into pastels. But I've been using the Prismacolor colored pencils, and they are among the cheapest set of colored pencils that you can buy, and I exclusively use those ones. Even though I have the other brands, I will sometimes jump into the Polychromos, the Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils, but a majority of my work is always done using the Prismacolor for the same reason I described with the using Carbothellos, but I also have the Luminance set, which is pretty much the most expensive colored pencils, and I don't think I've used them in the past 2 years. somewhere around that. It's been a long time since I've used them. I don't really remember the last time I even touched one of them. Not because they're not great pencils, but because everything that I want to do is perfectly fine using just the Prismacolor. Prismacolor works just as well, and I have no issues just using those. I would say price is probably going to make the largest difference in things like markers for sure. That medium, you really can't get away with going cheap with markers because the cheap markers are, well, they're just trash in my opinion. Never come across a decent cheap marker. Oil paint's one that you're going to want to spend like the medium to the high price for oil paints. Otherwise, you're just going to get like just flat out not like the way that they feel. And then the other medium I'd say is probably watercolor. You're probably going to want to spend the medium to higher price for your watercolors as well. Watercolors are probably very similar in regards to markers as far as the cheap stuff is just going to not be worth ever getting. Oh, okay, Chrissy, you have a lovely, lovely night. I'm glad you're able to pop in. Okie dokie, I got some pretty good highlights mapped out on the skin now, so I'm just going to use my blender here to smooth some of the color out before I move on. Get rid of some of the lines that I may have created. One of the things I want to do, I want to use my gray, the 110. This is the base color for the highlights. It's more of a bluish gray. So I want to go over my highlights with this color just to make sure that I have them kind of the right color. Yeah, I like the Faber-Castell Pit pencils also. Yeah, they're if you've never tried the Carbothellos though, I would highly recommend giving them a try. They are a bit softer than the Pit pencils, and as far as just like some of the more delicate work, they just perform a little bit smoother. And like I said, between the Carbothellos and the Pit pencils, they're a match made in heaven. They're really, really great in combination to one another. So oil pastels are something that I don't use. I have used them in the past, and they're not a medium that I enjoy using. I don't like the way that they look. I don't like the way that they feel. Um, and you I don't know. I can't really, I can't give you an unbiased opinion of oil pastels because I've never had a good experience with them. And as I said, I've never been a fan of them. So yeah, you can take my opinion of them with a grain of salt because I'm not the person to ask about oil pastels. I would recommend asking somebody that uses the medium regularly and perhaps it has a better history with that medium than I do. All right, so that's pretty good. Now I need to think about what color I want to bring in, and I think I kind of want to go a little bit more brown yellow on the skin, and I have this color. This color is 620. So I'm gonna use a little bit of this 620 color, and if I like the way that it looks, I'll keep using it. But I need to tone down the red in the skin and go a little bit more orange. So I'm gonna use a little bit of this color, very slowly, very gently into the skin. Yes, I do like this color, so I can recommend this color here to bring in some of the much needed orange that the skin has. The skin has a lot of orange tones in it that show up mainly around the brighter parts of the skin, kind of surrounding the highlights a little bit. There's quite a bit more orange coming through, kind of bleeding through the light. Oh, hey there, Lilia. Oh, sorry to hear you had some trouble logging into Patreon, but I'm glad you were able to make it. But just so you're aware, this live stream is just on YouTube. Um, Only the colored pencil tutorials have migrated back to Patreon, and this project I will continue to finish for everyone on YouTube. So for those of you that are new to my channel, or maybe this is your first live stream experience, these live tutorials are something that I generally do exclusively for my patrons, but I opened up to the public a couple months ago because of the lockdown, like the global lockdown, and so that everyone had something to watch, I just did the live streams publicly for everyone. Now that things are kind of going back to normal, I after I finished my colored pencil tutorial, the new project has migrated back to the Patreon exclusive side of things. But I didn't want to stop this project in the middle of it. So I will finish this project no matter how many more weeks I live stream on YouTube, so that everybody that started watching this project can also finish it. But after this project is complete, the Pastel project will return back to Patreon. Oh, you're welcome, Farah. Oh yeah, this color here added really nice tone to the skin, and it's breaking up the monotony of that 642 color that we kind of created for the base color of the skin. Yeah, this orange is really ideal for bringing into the skin here. It's making it's making a really big difference in person. I don't know how well it's coming across on camera, but hopefully it's showing up enough where you guys can see what difference it is making. Because I do feel that it is making quite a big difference here. Well, you don't have to miss the live stream sneaks. You can always come over on Patreon. Yeah, nobody has to miss any of the live streams. Just join me over on Patreon and you won't miss a thing. I need to make an adjustment to the thickness of this highlight here on her nose. Just realized how kind of much wider her nose is appearing. So I'm using the 642 here to kind of readjust that highlight. There we go. Her nose looks a little bit better like that. I suppose I miss live streaming on Patreon. Will I have access to it later? Oh yes, absolutely. All of the all of the tutorials that I've ever live streamed, you will immediately have access to all of those tutorials. There's somewhere around 300 of them. So I have a huge library that you'll have access to on Patreon when you sign up. And so any of the old projects that I've done in the past, many of them you can see on my Instagram page. So if there's a particular drawing or something that you see over on my Instagram, it is highly likely that you can find that project on Patreon and watch the live stream tutorials of me doing those projects. And if you can't catch the live stream, when it's live, you will always have access to rewatching the live stream. So you really can't ever miss anything because it will always be there. Good question, by the way. Thank you. Starting next week. So I know a number of you are also waiting on the Peaceful Pastel series to start back up again, and I can assure you I'm right there with you. Starting next week, my wife should be back to work like normal, because right now she's still working from home. But starting next week, as far as the both of us know, things should be back to normal. And when that happens, then I will be able to start producing the Peaceful Pastel series again. It's just too difficult when she's working from home. But yeah, so you can look forward to episode number 4, I believe. Is it episode number 4? I think, pretty sure it's episode number 4 that I need to make next. And I already know exactly what I'm going to do for that episode. So really just gotta make it. But I look forward to bringing you guys that series again. So um, I am one of few who explain what they're doing and why, so that your students can actually learn something. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. I don't want any of my techniques or approaches to be a secret. I want everybody to know exactly how I do it, why I do it. I try to I try to express exactly what I'm thinking in the moment that I'm doing it, so that I can help to develop your understanding of why I do things the way that I do them. Because I would like everybody to be able to do what I'm doing right now. And I think anybody is capable of doing it. It just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of patience, and beyond that, a little bit of time. So is my wife looking forward to going back to the office? Honestly, I don't think so. I think she kind of likes working from home. There's no travel time to and from the office, because her travel time's like 30-35 minutes or so. And so not having to travel is probably something she enjoys. It's nice to be able to eat lunch together and just go out in the kitchen. She works in the kitchen, since I take up the bedroom here with my studio. It's nice to just be able to go out to the kitchen and make her tea or something, or goof off with her when she's on the phone. She doesn't really like that, but I do it anyway. What normal couples do, bother each other. If you have to buy some special art supplies, no, there's no special art supplies or anything like that. I try to keep my art supply, the supplies that I use, I try to keep them as minimal as possible. When am I moving to the new flat? I'm moving in September. Hopefully, I mean, it. We haven't signed a contract yet, but we told the lady we want to move, and I don't know when she's gonna get the contract signed up, but we won't sign the contract until the people that are living there move out. So we just kind of have to wait on her, and I don't know the lady, so I don't know how trustworthy she is to her word, but hopefully she is trustworthy enough for me to say that we will be moving in September, because we were actually supposed to move in July. The 1st of July was when it was supposed to be available, but things changed and we weren't able to move in that soon, so hopefully it doesn't get bumped back any more than it already has. All right. So that's a pretty good color there. I don't even know if I want to use this color. I'm actually not sure if I want to use this color. I really like the way that that 620 color added pretty much everything I needed to the skin. Everything that I needed on the skin, that color pretty much covered. But I need, there is a little bit of the purple that I still need to use from the 770, but I just feel like there's like a one tone, maybe two tones that I'm missing. And I'm thinking this orange, darker red brown. It's like an orange red brown. This might work good for some of the middle shadows. So I'm thinking about this, but I'm also thinking about that 330 color that we used on the lips. I'm going to give this color here, this 645 color, a try and see how it looks. You go to Michael's. Do I know any other stores? In the US, what is that? Um, There was this store that I bought stuff from the US before I moved here. Um, people that buy supplies in the U.S. Help me out here. What are some of the what are some of the good online stores in the U.S. to get supplies from? Oh, hey, what's up, Electra? I see you. Glad you're able to stop in and say hello. Okay, I can recommend this color, this 645. It is adding a really nice reddish tone to the skin, so very, very good color. Yes, indeed, very, very good color. I've heard of the game Valorant, but I've never played it. I think I watched it being played, and it's not really a game that I would be interested in playing. I'm more for when it comes to first person shooters. I'm much more into like Call of Duty, the more realistic stuff. I don't like the futuristic stuff. It's too cheesy for me. I was never really a big fan of the Halo franchise either. Just a little bit too cheesy. And I also don't like to play the shooter games on PC either. I much prefer console. I gotta make I gotta make this lady's eyes look better. They're very they're very vacant at this stage of the drawing here. They're very vacant. They don't quite look as appealing as they do in the as they should. Partially because I haven't done any of the eyelashes. Eyes without eyelashes always kind of look a little bland. So if any of you guys have any questions for me, now would be a really good time to ask. I'm going to be using the 645 here for probably some time, just kind of working in some of the shadows on the face and the neck and the arms and everything. This is just about the perfect tone that I was looking for. So probably not many other colors, if any, that I will add. I might add might add a little bit of the red to brighten some of the shadow spots, and then I'll add a little bit of more of the 770 to go darker. But for the most part, this color here is going to get really close to finishing kind of the fine-tuned color of the face and the skin in general. Do I have acrylic painting tutorials? I have one or two I think I did on YouTube, but I'm not really a fan of acrylic paint. I much more prefer oil. But over the years I've done less and less painting. And for my channel specifically, I focus just on colored pencils and pastels. So I've kind of I've narrowed it down to what I focus on. And colored pencils and pastels is where I focus my channel nowadays. And it's been like that for some time. I don't remember the last time I used acrylic paint actually. One of the general rules with the pastel pencils is that the more layers that you start to build up, the less and less pressure that you really should be using, because you just during the fine tuning stage like this, where really trying to get the form and the structure and the colors of the face and everything, just applying a really, really, really light pressure of the pencil is going to give you a lot of control on the slow color buildup of the pencil. But what it also does is it smooths it out. So later on in the the layering process, like where I'm at right now, I won't really rely much on my paper blender that I was using earlier, this little tool here. There's really a, not much reason to use it at this stage because the pencils themselves will smooth the paper out so well. But I may use it every now and again at this stage. Just it's a lot. I use it a lot less at this stage. So it's all about just soft pencil control. Can you mix soft pastels with pan pastels? Yes, of course. Pan pastels are soft pastels. Yeah, pan pastels, soft pastels, and pastel pencils, they are all in the chalk pastel family, and they can all be mixed together. The changes the changes that I'm making at this point are becoming more and more subtle. So I don't even know if you can see what I did to the neck there. Because it is very, very small changes. You need to go a little bit darker in the shadow of the neck. But other than that, pretty close. Pretty close with the skin so far. With the addition of these few extra colors, the skin really did, just start to become more natural looking. Just overall looks better. So for those of you that might be following along on this project, I hope that you're feeling good about how your skin looks as well on yours. Yeah, it's all about subtlety, Sneaks. Yeah, the final details and the just the fine tuning and all of that is all about subtlety. I mean, really, nothing that I did today was a major change. Everything, like I was always holding the pencil like way back here and barely changing anything, right? And that's what it's all about. That's how you get things to look good. So you just make those teeny tiny little subtle changes. One thing that I really like about pastel pencils is how good they are at smoothing themselves out in the later layers. You don't have to do anything. They just do it themselves. Oh, you heard my wife sneeze there, did you? Yeah, it wouldn't be a live stream without my wife sneezing. She's allergic to my live streams. Well, hello, Christina, and welcome. Glad you subscribed to the channel. This project here, you'll know how long I've been working on it because the number after the live stream. I think this is six. This is the sixth live stream of this one. Yeah, part six. Um, so I work usually about an hour. I'm working a little bit more than an hour today on this. So I would say somewhere around 7-ish to 8-ish hours, give or take. A half hour or so. But that's how long I've been working on this project. About 7 or 8 hours. Yeah, pastels are really great. Yeah, pastels are a really, really fun medium. I do, so this project mainly focuses on pastel pencils, but I do have a course on soft pastels that I have on my website. If you've never used soft pastels before, then that course will be a really good introduction. One of the things with soft pastels is you don't really need to worry about what brand of soft pastels you use. They all pretty much work the same. And the pastel pencils that I'm working with are the Carbothello pastel pencils, and they're really great to work with. So it's a safe choice to go with these pastel pencils without spending too much money on them. All right, now I'm going to switch colors, adjust the value a little bit in some of the spots. I'm going to use the 770 color here. Her cheekbone here is shaded just a bit more, so very, very lightly. I'm going to start adding a little bit of this darker purple color to get the value that I want. Just a very, very small amount. I don't want to change the color a lot. I just want to just give it a little bit more value there on the cheek. Same thing on this side as well. Need to go a little bit darker. And this is where I'll probably use some of the red also. Same red that I used in the lips. And then also use it to darken the shadow underneath the chin. Just gradually build this color up to get that value. And since we're so far along in our layers, it should maintain a really smooth, consistent texture. You shouldn't really see any pencil lines at this stage of the process. And if you do, they're really easy to get rid of by using the blender. Yeah, the shadow needs a little bit of the red, so probably introduce that color a little bit on the cheeks and on the shadow here under the neck. This is just a little bit too gray, a little bit too purple. So bringing in some of the red will really help it kind of balance out the color. But I think I'm almost done for today. There will always be a polishing stage at the end of all of my projects where once everything's covered, you get a little bit more perspective on where things need to be adjusted. And with the hair still being blank here, you still lose a little bit of idea of where things need to be adjusted as far as the skin goes. And you don't have to feel like you need to finish the skin like 100% and you can never go back or something. You can always go back to the skin after we fill in the hair to make those small adjustments. So you don't have to feel like you can never get to the hair. But I'm pretty pleased with the way this is starting to come together. I need to do some adjustments on the eyes, give her eyelashes and all of that stuff. But yeah, it's starting to come together really well. Let's see here. I want to smooth out some of the color around her nose. and around her lips also. There. And then gently smooth out the shadow before I apply the red. Some of those darker colors, they struggle a little bit with smoothing things or keeping things smooth. Alright, now I'm going to take very, very bold 330 color. This is the same red that we used on the lips, and I need to use this on the skin. You have to be especially cautious with this color. You don't want to apply too much pressure. I'm going to add a little bit around the shadows on her eyes. She has makeup on, and so it's a little bit more purple, and this red will help make those shadows look more makeup-like. So just a very, very small amount of this color. Can you use waterproof black graphite pencil for sharp lines like eyelashes and eyebrows? I can't say for sure. I've never used a waterproof black graphite pencil on top of pastels. But I would say using the black Carbothello pencil is probably going to give you better results than a graphite pencil, because it's going to be really black. The Carbothello pencil, the Carbothello black is really, really dark black, so you're probably going to have better results with that. It's going to show up easier as well than a graphite pencil. You can always give it a try. Let the family know how it works out if you do give it a try. I'm going to work on the eyes before I go. I'm going to apply this color throughout to bring in some of the much needed reds in the skin, and then once I do that, I'll work on the eyes and then I'll call it a day. And then next week we'll get to the hair. The hair won't take as long as the skin. Probably be able to finish the hair in one sitting, actually. There's not a lot to cover in comparison, so try to get it done next week. If I do finish the hair next week, maybe I'll keep the toning, or not the toning stage, but the polishing stage. Maybe I'll do one extra live stream of the polishing stage. Do I stream at the same time every week? Yes, I do. Unless life gets in the way. Every once in a while, life will get in the way, and I'll have to reschedule the stream, but I would say 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the same exact time, so life does not tend to get in the way too often. Yes, indeed, the polishing stage is very important indeed. It is very important, and it is my favorite part. Polishing stage is my favorite part. Where am I located? I live in Poland. So if you're wondering about time zone, um, I'm Central European time. You can take the fan.
For sure.
Yeah. Chat says Nozdrovia, by the way.
When?
You sneezed like 3 times during today's stream.
I was yapping, for sure.
Well, you were yapping as well, but they heard you sneeze.
They know better than I. I was screaming because I heard myself. At least 3 times, so it was hurting. Sneezing. Thank you very much.
Yep. That was my lovely wife coming in to steal my fan. It finally started to get a little warm here in Poland, and so I was using the fan to keep me cooled off, but she took it away from me. Her and her mom are out in the kitchen right now. So if you hear a conversation going on, it's just them out in the kitchen yelling, because that's how they communicate. They don't talk to one another. They just sit there and yell. That's how Poles talk, actually. There's no such thing as an inside or outside voice for Poles. It's all just yelling. Just constantly yelling and talking over one another. Do I usually go to lakes and rivers there in Poland? Because in Slovakia, everyone now is in the lakes. No. I don't. Now that you mention that, I've never seen a river in Poland. Does Poland have any rivers? I'm gonna have to look on the map because I've never seen a river in Poland. And as far as a lake goes, there's some lakes. The park. So we went to a park this past Saturday, and there's a lake that people go swimming at. It's a small one, so people wouldn't be like. Well, there's two actually, and there was some people kayaking in one, the larger lake. But as far as rivers go, now that you bring it up, I don't think I've ever seen a river in Poland. That can't be right. Oh, no. Well, there is the canal that is over in Krakow. It doesn't feel like a river though, since it's man-made. all the like the ferry boats and stuff sit on that. But I'm sure they call it a river. I'm not sure. Alright, that's pretty close. I think I like that. Let's try to smooth it out just a little bit with just a very, very light pressure of my blender here. Perfect. I'm going to bring in a little bit of red on the arms now. And then I'm going to just jump into the eyes and do the eyelashes and just make the eyes look better, because right now they're really quite rough looking. There are many rivers. Yeah, I can't remember any rivers here. It's funny. Are there any rivers near Katowice? Because I don't know if I've seen any. I don't know if, yeah, around me, I don't know if there are. There could be, but I don't get out much, so. I imagine that, I went up to Gdańsk a couple years ago. Pretty sure there was a river up there. Alright, let's add a little bit of red in here and then get to the eyes. Any of the adjustments that I need to make, I can make later in the polishing stage. I would say a majority of the adjustments are very, very small, minor stuff, so yeah, that looks pretty good. It's time to work on the eyes. I'm going to zoom in on my reference photo a little bit, just get a little bit better view of the face. Let's see, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to work on the eyeshadow a little bit using the 770 color. So just some of the darker spots around the eyes I want to get filled in a bit better. Small changes, very, very small changes with this 770 color. And yeah, that pretty much does it. I need the gray. So one of the other colors that I used last week, the 726, this is just this gray color. I'm going to use this also for her eyeshadow. Because it's kind of a silvery tint. There we go. I'm going to use the really bright gray, the 110 that I used earlier, to create the lighter parts of her iris. So a little bit of that to make her eyes shine a little bit more. I'm going to use it in her scleras also. Just brighten that a little bit before I continue. Just a very small amount. Now it's time to grab the black. And let me get the pencil extender here. So with the black pencil, I'm going to really darken all of the eyelashes. Let's just start on this eye over here. And now the secret to getting like the thinner dark lines for the eyelashes is to just do really light passes of the color. So don't try to go like perfectly dark right away. Instead, do like very light passes and just keep kind of brushing. Get the solid black part first before trying to do any individual eyelashes. Darken up the pupils and the shadow of her irises. Can I zoom in a bit? Yes, I can. Is that in focus and everything? Looks like it. Kind of fix the roundness of her her irises. I made her iris is a bit too small, so I need to just make them a bit bigger. Also, I can do the adjustments to her nostrils also, since I have the black pencil, might as well. And shade her eyeshadow a bit as well to get the value correct. Just a small dash of the black in some of the eyeshadow to get the correct value. This will help deepen the sockets of her eyes, make her eyes kind of stand out a little bit more. What part of Poland do I live in? I live in the city of Katowice. Alright, so where's my blender? I'm going to smooth out her eyeshadow a bit, make it nice and smooth. Make sure I have a really good foundation before I start like drawing in any little hairs for her eyelashes. And let's make this one a little bit thicker over here. And I can put in a few little, basically just dots almost for her actual her actual eyelashes. I mean, just trying to make the smallest possible indication that she has lashes, right? You don't have to draw like real long crazy lines or anything. And then her eyelashes are casting a shadow into the shadow of the highlight. So I'm actually going to use the 642 color to create those shadows in the highlight there. Something like this. Just a few little lines there. Maybe one over here. A few little lines up here from texture of her eyebrow. And then over here there's a few little lines that you can see the shadow of her eyelashes. Something like that. And you know what? I'm gonna take the red, that 330 color of the red. I'm gonna add a little bit of it in here in the highlight. Her skin turns a little bit red there. In the polishing stage, I'll probably grab like a pink, something a little bit more like saturated than this red. This red's a little bit too dark to do this, so I'll probably grab like a pink or something to do this again later on. But yeah, that's pretty close. This eye is just a bit too wide open, so I need to add a little bit of the black to make it appear to be more closed. It's more squinty. Something like that. Same thing on this eye. Let's give her her teeth back really quick. There, a little bit for her teeth, and I'm gonna use a 642 on her bottom lip, just to brighten up where the color is, where the highlight is on the bottom lip a little bit on the top lip. This color might be a bit too bright for it, but give the lip a bit of texture. I'll use the 681 for some of the highlights on her lip. And I think I'm gonna call it a day. Yeah, I'm gonna call it a day. I'm gonna zoom out. There. Now you can see what it looks like with none of this paper covering it. So yeah, you can see all of it. So anyways, that is going to be it for today. Didn't use nearly as many colors as I had selected, which is usually how things go. But next week we're going to start filling in the hair and get all of those shapes put in and some of the texture and whatnot. I'm going to try to finish the hair next week, and then the following week I'll probably live stream the polishing stage where I just kind of fine tune everything. And I would say mostly the polishing stage is going to be a really good opportunity to ask any of your follow-up questions, because for the polishing stage I just kind of jump all over the place, where I find small things that I can make adjustments to, and yeah, that's basically what I do. So there's not a whole lot of technical things that I can kind of give you insight into, but yeah, the hair will be a fun part of this project, and once we have it covered, it will pretty much look complete. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's live stream. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday, and for those of you over on Patreon, I'll see you Thursday for the continuation of our colored pencil project. But until then, I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.